Going to kick on now. Core training for combat sports. A little bit like the plyometric workshop. It's going to be a very short theory and the science behind it and the different challenges that we face when doing core training with our athletes. And then we're going to get mostly stuck into the practical. So we're going to learn the importance of core training in combat sports. We're going to discuss different challenges that our athletes are facing when developing core strength, and then we're going to learn and practice the boxing science way of core training. Now, there are many different ways to train the core. Yeah, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different exercises to improve strength and stability of the core. These are just methods that we use. Okay, so different S&C coaches might think differently. We're just sharing the methods that we use at Boxing Science. Remember what I said yesterday? What's the most important physical contributor to a punch?
Trunk, thickness, jump.
Yeah.
Big bench press.
Big. So yeah, trunk mass. Okay. So trunk mass is the most important physical contributor to a punch. So we're using Golovkin as an example again. It's really thick around his core. Isn't like kind of sunken in. Really ripped abs. It's really like kind of strong and thick around his core. And these are this is data taken from MSc research. So what we've got down the right side is core mass. Then we've got down the left axis is med ball punch throw, so in meters. So you can see that there's a strong correlation between core mass, trunk mass, and how far they could throw the medicine ball. And just a reminder, that picture of Jordan going through like with his weight difference between December 2015 after 2 training camps with Boxing Science through to October 2018, he's lost 5 pounds. But you can see that it's gained a lot of muscle mass. Okay, 1.7 kilos of muscle mass, 0.8 in particular around his trunk, around his core. Talking about the kinetic chain, about how force is generated from foot through to fist, and we need to leg force, hip and torso rotation is key. And if we're not strong and mobile and be able to transfer that force through our core, we'll lose that energy. And we'll lose that energy going through to the fist. So the best way of improving core mass is through like mechanical tension and time under tension under compound lifts. So you see the big strong men, and they've got them like kind of big but strong trunks. Okay, this is all through like heavy lifting, a lot of time under tension. Whereas at Boxing Science, we struggle with that because there's limited exposure to maximum strength as they're like developing as athletes. So this limits the ability to optimize core development through compound lifts. So the ability to lift heavy weights, so overload the core, is quite limited because they've probably got a strong core through doing your traditional core exercises in the boxing gym, doing sit-ups and everything like that. So actually to overload the core through doing compound lifts is going to be quite limited. And plus, our training aim is to try and minimize fatigue. Okay, we're trying to get as strong as we can, but we can't do too many reps because that'll affect our training stimulus for strong and get as fast as possible. We don't want to get fatigued and transfer that into the conditioning or into the boxing and the sparring as well. So this means that the time under tension will be limited. So we try and work around this. During different training phases, we manipulate the training lifting techniques to overload the core. So stuff like Anderson squats and lifting from the rack to get more loading through the spine to develop the core a little bit more. So we'll target that. Every strength session will include 2 or 3 isolated core exercises. This will challenge like different areas of core stability, strength and explosiveness. We also have a periodized approach, so we'll start off with like stability exercises, try and stay still. Then we'll try and do like some strength work, a little bit more dynamic through like strength speed phases. And then we'll look to like do some more explosive work when working through speed and tapering phases as well. We also include core exercises in the warm-up. So in our mobility drills yesterday, we put in dead bugs, leg lowers, stuff like Spider-Man twists and yoga press-ups. These are all challenging core stability as well. So it's like kind of disguising it as well. So you're looking at 2 or 3 isolated core exercises throughout every session, and then you've got about 2 or 3 different exercises in your warm-up as well. And we also encourage them to like do like circuits in the gym after the boxing session or as part of active recovery as well. This is kind of what we base our core training around, 21st century core training. So yeah, this is something that I've been like kind of following for years really, from like looking at T Nation. Anyone read T Nation? Yeah. 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 So yeah. So yeah. So loads of great training articles back in the day. I haven't been on it in quite a while, but this is like kind of what I got from it, and it resonates with the work that we do now at Boxing Science. So you've got 4 key movements. You've got rotation, lateral flexion, extension, and then hip flexion. But as you can tell, that they've got anti in front of them, so resisting that rotation, resisting lateral flexion, resisting extension and flaring of the rib cage, and then hip flexion with neutral spine, trying to flex at the hips whilst keeping your shoulders back, keeping your back straight. So this is actively resisting rotation and lumbar spine. So just holding it in there. So Gav's there, holding the cable out, and the weight is wanting to come back in. Needs having to brace his core so he's not rotating. So how does this transfer through to boxing? Stronger rotation of the core, utilising stretch shortening cycle when performing combinations. So if I'm, let's say if I'm going for right hand, left hook, if I throw my right hand and I rotate there, but I'm not strong in there, I won't be able to come back round and rotate into my left hook as powerful. So even though you're thinking anti-rotation is really stable and doesn't really transfer into rotational exercises, really that strength that you're creating there will have an effect on the stretch shortening cycle there. So it's a little bit like you're thinking about your plyometric journey again. So trying to land first, absorb that force, then transfer that into explosive movements. So it's the same with the core. You try and get stable first and pass over that strength into more explosive movements. So doing stuff like planks and barbell rollouts like in this photo. And this is actively resisting the extension of the lumbar spine. So basically arching your back that way. So Callum's resisting his hips from dropping down and his back extending. The reason why we do this, not necessarily like a punching action, it's just protecting the back from when you're performing large amounts of punching. So you can see there when Fowler's throwing that uppercut there, he could have a little bit of loading through his lower back. So keeping that core nice and strong, keeps it stable, it protects the lower back, especially when you're doing high training loads. Anti-lateral flexion. So this is resisting lateral flexion of lumbar spine, so side bending. Now this is Jordan doing some landmine rotations. So a lot of people might think when you do landmine rotations, that's like anti-rotation exercise. However, the main thing that Jordan's controlling there, when the weight's down there, is him bending to the side. So the reason why we do this, a few different things, is to basically get optimal rotation when you're punching without side bending. So now when we're talking about throwing that punch and getting that rotation there, if we're not strong anti-lateral flexion, we're going to be side bending rather than wanting to rotate. So that's how it helps us. So it actually helps us with our ability to rotate. And also, you're going to end up getting in that position and maybe like slipping or, you know, recovering from a shot, is to come back round, recover quickly into like throwing a hook, throwing different combinations, or just getting back into your stance straight away. Okay. Then hip flexion with neutral spine, so bracing the core to create a controlled flexion of the hip without flexing at the spine. So you see your normal sit-ups in the gym where you're coming up and rounding at the back. That's something that we want to avoid when developing the core. So this is like resisting, like forward lean when attacking and moving forward. So let's say we're throwing a jab and we're coming forward with our guard there. If we're not strong enough there, we can end up rounding and end up being in a disadvantageous position. So here's our core training philosophy. Like I said, quite similar to the plyometric journey, where we're building them foundations of being able to control force, and we're transferring that through to more explosive movements. So we've got stability first. So these are loaded or body weight exercises that require none or very little movement to resist forces in side direction. So for example, we're using anti-rotation all the way through. The first one is pull-off press, where there's either you're holding it out there or you're doing presses, but there's actually no movement in your core. You got strength, again, loaded or bodyweight exercises, but they like progressively challenge stability through movement. So we've progressed from pull-off press into cable rotations. So from there, we're challenging that strength and that stability through a range of motion. Okay, still anti-rotation. As soon as you think like anti-rotation, you feel like you can't move or anything like that, or actually perform them exercises. It's all about controlling them movements. And then explosive rotational med ball throws. So this is light loaded exercises that challenge the stability and utilise the stretch shortening cycle of the core, because that's our end goal. It's how we can use rotation and use our core strength in fast and explosive actions. So rotational med ball throws, that's anti-rotation because we're catching it, and if we don't have that strength and that stability, we're going all the way back there, using probably muscles in our lower back, super compensating, dipping our hips or whatever, and it's not like a control movement. Whereas if we're strong, we're catching the ball and we're throwing it back out nice and explosively. I'm going to bring up the full slide on this, and then we're going to give all these exercises a go. This is our training matrix. So we've probably got a little more exercises. Like I said, we're limited to 2 days on this workshop. So this could be a full day in itself to work out all the core exercises that we use at Boxing Science. But these are our main go-to exercises. So you see that we're putting them in different categories, a different grid. You've got the training type down left-hand side, and then you've got stability, strength, and explosiveness. Some of the exercises that we're going to show you, these might sit in different ones, such as like plank row. You know, that's an anti-rotation, and it's also an anti-extension as well. But we kind of like, when we're programming, we're making sure that we're covering all the bases. Okay, so we'll go through all these exercises then. First one, anti-rotation. So we've got pull-off press. So we can either use a band or we can use a cable on there. We're going to bring out the band, line with our sternum, shoulders back, knees slightly bent, and we're pushing out and bringing it back in. Okay, shoulders back and down what you're likely to see is wanting to shrug up our shoulders, use these strong shoulders all the time. If you keep your shoulders back and down, you should feel it in your core a lot better. Find it hard, get a little bit closer, less tension on the band. If you find it easy, you thought I weren't going to do it then. Okay, pressing out there. Anti-extension, we're going to do plank row, and that also does anti-rotation as well. So going press up position, feet hip width apart, and we're touching opposite shoulder, hands opposite shoulder, and we're keeping our hips level with our shoulders, and keeping our belly button tucked up, keeping that core tension. Now, why do you think that goes into anti-rotation as well? Yeah, resisting that drop, resisting that rotation. So a good cue would be to put a foam roller on your back and trying to stay as still as you can. And then I'll show you a couple of progressions of this. If you find it easy, take your feet in. See, that's a lot harder there. You find it hard, take your feet a little bit wider. The main thing on this is to get your shoulder level right. You'll find a lot of people will want to start out here. There's putting too much kind of leverage on your shoulders there. A lot of tension coming through front of your shoulders. That's what the boxers will always want to do. Let's take the shoulders out of the equation. And reach over. And you're kind of working your core a lot more. And a few little progressions for you. You can touch opposite. Same. Knee. And then you can bring through. You can give them a go. Farmer holds, you can just stand there with a kettlebell, good for grip strength as well, shoulder strength, keep your shoulders back, and basically try and stay as upright as you can. Hold that for 20 to 30 seconds, then you can do farmer walk. Like you're doing big shop at Asda or something. Yeah, that's it. So just holding it out to the side, not holding it too close, keeping your shoulder blade back and trying to stay as upright as you can. Next one is iso holds. Do it long ways. And then
This is what we used to do when we lived together.
same level there, shoulders back. Maintaining core tension. Just try and stay straight up. Go with his arms out, arms above his head, or you can use it with a weight too. Okay, and then you've got hip flexion with neutral spine. Might as well do iso holds again. So we've got iso holds where we're just going back, holding there, shaking straight away, but I can hold it for a long time. Elbows up, shoulders back, and you want to kind of get a 30-degree angle, I'd say. Not wanting to sit up too far up here, cheating. Go all the way down. As soon as you go too far back, you start compensating using your lower back muscles. Pin them shoulder blades back to make sure you get that straight back. Then you can advance it, bring your arms up. You can use a weight, then you can do little pulses, little rotations. Have a play about with that. Hands like that, shoulders back, and just twist these hips there. Feel it in there. Yeah. Nice. Hips up, Mark. Hips up, hips up. Belly button tucked in. Nice. Shoulder blades back, knees bent, good. Then press out from there. A little bit harder, yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
Firing in my pack.
Firing in your pec as well. Strength now. So remember, strength is challenging stability through like dynamic movement. So the first one, cable rotations, okay, or banded rotations. So you can either grab a cable on a pulling machine, you can just grab one of these bands here. Knees slightly bent, feet hip width apart, rotating, and then back. As soon as we're back at the centre, rotating again. Okay? What you want to try and do is to keep these hips locked in position. So like we were saying about the lunges the other day, I don't care whether you're rotating all the way around or rotating to there, as long as you're keeping these legs fixed in position. So when you rotate, we're just getting to there, back to the centre, and back round, okay? If you're going to rotate your hips fully. So make it more of a like kind of a lower body movement and bring your hips round. Okay, so that hip movement becomes purposeful and actually contributes. Pardon? Yeah. Well, it's kind of both. It's kind of both, yeah. So you're pushing off this leg, rotating through. So it's hip rotation and core rotation as well, and you're managing to get more movement as well. We're wanting to challenge that stretch shortening cycle. So you don't want to stop the rep, then just go again. As soon as we're there, straight away, we go again. That's the eccentric into concentric, just slower movement. So you want to control it coming down. That's the anti-rotation, and drive through. That's your strength. Okay. You do more reps on this. Yeah. So you do around about 10 reps. 10 reps each side. Anti-extension, TRX, barbell rollouts. So you're going to be kneeling. I want you to push your hips forward, get onto the bar, hands shoulder width apart, and then basically hands on level with your shoulders as well, not in front, okay? So start off squeezing your shoulder blades back, you're starting in front of the, with your head in front of the bar. Am I going to get this in? Yeah, just, okay. So keeping your hips extended, falling forward, keeping your belly button tucked in, keeping your posture straight, hips on level with your shoulders, dropping down, head comes down, and then back up, keeping that posture. Now, a common mistake would be to start from there. When we start from there, we're hunching our shoulders, and then that's all we're wanting to use when we're coming down. I'm just using my arm strength and shoulder strength there. So you want to kind of keep your shoulders locked back and down, and then that's going to utilise your core a lot better. Also, making sure that your hips don't drop. So don't let your hips drop in there, use your back. Also, when you come back up, a little bit of a bum coming up in the air. Okay, you're wanting to try and keep your hips extended, your glutes tensed up, and pulling in the bar. So all what's moving really is just the arms going forward, your arms back, and your body's just following, just like a plank. Another one is you need to maintain that core tension all the way through. So when you go to 100% of the movement, what's likely to happen, you'll start dropping in your hips, start using your lower back muscles. So a little bit like the side clams we were saying yesterday, want to work to 80-20 rule. And plus when you work to 0 to 100, at the 0 part, you lose that core tension. So a good way to do it is to think 80-20. So let's say this is 0 all the way here. Start off on 20, so we're leaning over it. That's around about 80. And we're keeping that core tension all the way through. When I go to 100, I can feel my lower back going there. Imagine what the boxers are feeling. So, and as well, you can do little drills where we're working even like 60-40. Just keeping that core tension. And that's quite hard, even though we're not challenging that range of motion. That tension there through your core is increased by just staying in that position. Going to drop down into a press-up position. Drop the handles, drop your body, arms come up above your head, keeping your belly button tucked in, bracing the core, and then back up. Find it hard, you can start from here. Again, it's just the arms that are moving and your body following. And then if you're finding it easy, this is going to be tough. Get all the way over it, drop down, and then back up. Again, very common is to start out there and just rep out. Start sitting down, sitting your shoulders back down, squeezing your shoulder blades back, and having the hands start along with your shoulders, dropping in, keeping that core tension, and coming back out. Antilateral flexion, you get the landmine, stand, your feet hip width apart, and sitting onto your heels. You kind of lean half into the bar, with your arms extended, shoulder blades back and down. Rotate to the side, one arm bends, one arm straight. We're rotating that upper body, but we're not flexing laterally. That's what I mean. This is why it goes into anti-lateral flexion. There's a bit anti-rotation as well, but mainly the main thing that we as bodies wanting to do is flex to the side. So on the way down, forceful on the way up. Same rules apply as the cable rotations and the band rotations. So that if your hips are going to move, make sure it's purposeful. So we want to try and keep your hips and knees facing forward, your upper body rotating as much as you can. If we are wanting to add a rotation in, make sure the rotation comes all the way through, and then that can add a little bit more speed into your lift. But mainly, I'll just use it for keeping your feet still, separating your upper and lower body. And then you've got straight arm, straight leg sit-ups. Sit back, stomach nice and tense, arms up on level with your shoulders. Come up, straighten up that posture, arms up above your head. And we're coming down, nice and slow. Try to keep those legs to the floor. Nice and controlled movement. Okay, so you can start off 3 seconds coming down. You can progress it to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See that final bit is hardest. 10 seconds. No, I can't do that. Rotational plank's a good one. Okay, so you're going to start off plank position, but bring your arms like that. Then I just want you to rotate towards the mirror and actually pivot on your legs into side plank. Yeah, and your arm as well. Back. No, feet are fine. Yeah, good. And rotate to the other side. Okay, so I knew Tim were going to do this well. Normally I get a pick on someone that isn't going to do it as well. If you do rotational plank again, Tim, the main kind of the common mistake that I'll see is that when we start rotating to the side, that the hips will start traveling to the side. Yeah, and then going back into that side, just going back into side plank position, so going there, that's it. So the end position is great, but the first initial movement, if we go back, is actually a lateral flexion. It's shifting the hips to the side, then up. So the main thing to do here is a coaching cue. If you just stop there, Tim, I'm just going to put my leg into there. I want you to pivot as much as you can, rotate as much as you can into that rotational plank. You feel it more in your core, the side of your core as well. So then it becomes more of an anti-lateral movement. As well as anti-lateral movement as well, because in that side plank position, your hips are just wanting to come down. Just rotational throws. So we can either go with a hip twist, or we can go keeping his legs stationary. Now remember what the main reason why we're doing core training is to improve the stretch shortening cycle of the core. So when I see people doing wall slams and going there and just throwing it as hard as they can, so that's like concentric force, not challenging the eccentric. So we do a lot of catch and throw techniques. From standing, it's a little bit difficult because we're going with a heavier ball, or if it's a lighter ball, it's going quite fast. So I'd encourage to start there, drop down into it, and then throw. Or we can do catch and throw, so I'll throw it straight back out. Okay, so catching it, rapidly controlling that force, and then going into concentric force. So that's your rotation, but also catching it there, you're also going into lateral flexion. Okay, so in these kind of drills, the two merge into one. So anti-lateral flexion and anti-rotation, in explosive terms, merge into one, and then the anti-extension, hip flexion with neutral spine, also merge into one as well. Next one is just standing med ball slams. Okay, so you might see this like more of a conditioning exercise, but when done like strong and explosively and trying to do the correct technique, it's actually a really good core exercise. There, we're bringing it above our head and we're challenging anti-extension. So all our hips, or what our back's wanting to do, is to arch back. You've probably seen that when you're getting tired and they're throwing the ball like that. Okay, so it's quick anti-extension, stretch shortening cycle, then slamming that back down. The reason why anti-extension and hip flexion with neutral spine come into this is because when we slam down, we're flexing our hips and we wanted to keep a neutral spine. We're doing that through a fast action, so this core needs to be strong. As well, you notice I'm kind of getting into that power position. It's like an altitude landing. Okay, so there are the standing variations. So we do them with heavier medicine balls. Then we've got some kneeling variations as well. You can do it on one knee, but we mainly do it on two knees. Okay, so I'll show you the rotations first. Fire it into there. Other side, before you throw it again. Okay, overhead. Fire it in. Ah! Yes. Blow it out. Yeah. Ah! 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 Okay, that's enough. All right, so you can see now we've transferred all the work that we've done into this important phase just before we fight to get them explosive actions through a core. So we're controlling that eccentric fast stretch shortening cycle of the core muscles, and then firing straight back through. I'm not going all the way down, not flexing the hips, not arching my back to try and get as much momentum into the shot. I'm trying to catch it, use rapid rotation, and drive back through. On med ball throws, I'll keep my core nice and tight to drive it back down, except for when Alan chucked it too high. I did bend my back on that one. But catching it, and then when I slam it down, there's a little bit of hip flexion, but it's controlled because I'm bracing my core. When you coach this, don't be all floaty, okay? Chucking the ball slow. You need to attack it, you need to challenge your athlete. If the ball is coming back faster than they're throwing it, you're not challenging the eccentric portion enough. If they're throwing it rapid and you're throwing it light, then you're not challenging them enough, okay? So get stuck in, throw the ball quite hard, be intense with your coaching, making sure that you're getting some good quality action, okay? In terms of rep ranges, you'd go for around about 10 reps each side on plank rows and everything like that. For timed sets, 20 to 30 seconds on iso holds. Try and work up to a minute if you can, with a very short rest period in between. So you do a core iso hold, you do it for a minute, 15 seconds off, and try and repeat that 5 times. Same with the strength work, and then for explosive work, you'd work around between 5 and 8 reps on each side on that, because obviously we're wanting it nice and fast. And I think that's around about it. How I'd fit into the sessions, I'd do one exercise paired up with a unilateral exercise. So let's say if we're doing a lunge or a single leg Romanian deadlift, something like that, I'd pair that up with a core exercise, like a little bit of a superset. And then I'd do like a little bit of a core superset or a circuit to finish off. That could consist of 2 or 3 different exercises.